Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi. Today I'm having coffee with Michelle Saudan. Michelle hails from Zimbabwe and is currently based in Dubai. She has been serving in the wellness industry since 2010. This life journey has taken her into massage, spa therapy, management, spiritual life coaching, sound healing and meditation, as well as traveling to over 67 countries, which is incredible, by the way. As both a practitioner and a coach, she takes pleasure in gently guiding her clients to experience a deeper, more harmonious level of life. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Bobbi. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you on this platform. How are you?
I am doing amazing today. It is the morning here. It's evening where you're at in Dubai. I'm just grateful for life. Like the sun is shining today, getting to connect with you and just dive in more into what's happening in your life currently. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what's been on your mind or what's been happening?
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, you know what? To be honest, I had so many things when you initially asked me if I could come on the show. And I said, well, instantaneously, the first three things that popped up for me were authenticity, availability, and authority. And we're all on that journey. I'm on that journey as well. I'm not speaking from the perspective of being an expert, so to say. But when we speak of authenticity, your soul knows. Um, your ego may be confused, pulled here and there with the socio-political situations or whatever's going on up and down in your personal life. But there's only so far that you can go until one surrenders. And when I say surrender, I don't mean defeat. I don't mean failure. I just mean stopping the fight only to say, I am. I am available. I'm ready. And I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. And when that sense of authenticity feels so urgent, you feel as though something is birthing within you. And I think so many people can resonate, especially with the challenging year that we had as a collective last year. So you also sort of feel that the negative ego is, slowly slipping away bit by bit. And it's a part of the process. It's a part of the yes. And when I thought about availability, because you touched base on, healing yesterday when we sent the message out, I said, yeah, well, when it comes to healing, I think availability is such a big chunk of it, and being available with your heart and all your soul. I mean, I'll tell you, Bobbi, I used to confuse availability with commitment. I thought, well, if I'm committed, I'll show up. But no, availability is the daily moment to moment self-awareness, your practices, and basically the successive accumulation of everything.
Let's
And
Oh, sorry to interrupt a second, but I wanted to hit on this point of availability because we always think of like being available. There's time in our schedule, right? Like let's pencil it in. But that's more so of on a healing level, a commitment, correct?
correct.
And it's getting to this mindset shift of like actually being 100% available, like you mentioned, self-aware and embodying this not only mindset, right? But it's also like you're 100% invested into your practice. You're 100% in it and available for the healing that's to come or the mindset shift, right?
Right, absolutely. And not just your own self-awareness and your own healing, but I mean showing up in relationships as well. So it's we can say, okay, I'm committed to my spiritual journey. I'm committed to improving either your professional or your personal relationships, or it's your daily spiritual mindfulness practices. But it's showing up daily, and that accumulation is what then equates to commitment, not the other way around. So that hit a point, and I thought, oh, okay, there we go.
I love that. It reminds me, sort of the analogy like of a dripping faucet. If you collect all those drips at the beginning, you just have a little bit, but over time it builds and builds, and you have that steady commitment in this case of from being available to actually showing up.
Right, right. It's beautiful. And you know, what I was going to say was that when you're available, you're constantly growing and you're constantly evolving because you've put yourself out there. So you're vibrating at availability.
Let's dive into this level of vibrating and energy because I'm on the same wavelength as you. I've been studying this. I live my life like this. Some of the listeners and people who are watching this might be going like, what in the world are these two talking about today? They're acting crazy. I don't know if I want to say I know Bobbi after the show. But let's break it down a little bit for people who are listening of the frequencies and healing energies and vibrational levels.
Perfect. Well, I'll make it a bit easier for everyone to understand. So, one thing that's so important for us to understand is that everything around us is energy. The sofa that I'm sitting on, the chair you're sitting on right now, Bobby, or whoever's tuning in, what you're sitting on right now, everything is energy, and we ourselves are unique vibratory beings. And harmony is health. Um, what happens with when you vibrate at a higher frequency, that is when health takes place. That is when love is present. There's beauty, there is intelligence. And when something vibrates at a lower frequency, that is when we have, negative emotions, we have dis-ease, discomfort, and all the other bottom line negative things that go at war, operates at a lower frequency. So that's what, when people speak about high frequencies and low frequencies, that's what they would generally be referring to.
Wonderful. Thanks for breaking that down for us. So let's dive into this more. You were going on about vibrating at a higher frequency, and I don't know if you were going in the direction of wellness or health or how that all correlates. You want to tell us more?
Yeah, perfect. Um, well, harmony is health. So with sound healing basically, in a nutshell, takes away the stress from the system by entangling it with harmonic vibrations, and those harmonic vibrations tend to be that of a higher frequency. And because harmony is our nature, our systems will naturally be receptive and open to receiving that because it seeks to be in harmony. We were not born ill. Our natural state of being is love. Being healthy in whatever form that may be in. So the system will naturally open to it as it seeks harmony. Newtonian physics, and I know you touched base on this earlier on, and you were speaking about quantum physics, and many people that I speak to, and most of my friends think, oh, okay, yeah. So I think you and I need to be put in a bubble and thrown into another dimension. But I'll break it down for those who who wouldn't understand, and make it a lot more simpler. So Newtonian physics is based on our conventional medicine system. So your tablets, your medication, your doctors, that's all based on, it emphasizes on mechanical material, and it doesn't really give so much credit to the invisible realm, that we, it's not tangible, we can't see it, that energy that we keep speaking about, that frequency, you can't see it, maybe you can hear it, but that's why allopathic medicine, which is, your tablets, your antibiotics, the normal medical system, is preoccupied with physical things, because that's the nature of Newtonian physics. And then in 1925 and 1920s, early 1920s, quantum physics, which is a much bigger science, was discovered. And it was then mentioned that Newtonian physics is just a very small compartment of the bigger science that is quantum physics. And what they explain is that every atom is a vibrating source of energy. So we're all just vibrating at different levels of energy. And atoms make up molecules, molecules make up cells, and it makes us.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And
I
that
hope.
is how energy is, I would almost say created, but energy is not created nor destroyed. So that is a great explanation of energy and how it relates to ourselves. But let's take this another step. So we've put the building blocks in place of energy and vibration and frequency now. Now let's take it to the next level of working, for instance, if you want to dive into more of the sound healing and sound frequency and how that transforms at a cellular level.
Perfect. Um, as we said that every atom is a vibrating source of energy. What happens is that the sound healing, the energy that is given off. So let's say a singing bowl. When one taps or plays with a singing bowl, that frequency that is given off is then interferes with the human system. So it's called a constructive interference, when something harmonic interferes or entangles with our system. And when something is not in harmony, it will naturally go towards the more harmonic frequency. And then that nice, beautiful high frequency will entangle the system with that and then try to bring it to balance.
And what are those healing frequencies? I know you can Google, and on Spotify and Apple Music, you'll see like healing sounds or sounds for relaxation. What are those frequencies that people need to be looking towards to reach those more like calming states, healing states?
There are, well, as you mentioned, there are so many of them, but I'll give you examples of ones I use. For instance, I play an instrument called a monochord, which is a stringed instrument, and it is tuned to a frequency of 432 hertz, which is 432 beats per second, which is quite phenomenal. And that is known as the miracle tone. So the beautiful thing now with science is that in quantum physics, energy frequencies can all be measured. So it's not anything woo-woo, no numbers that I'm just throwing off the top of my head. The tuning forks as well have been measured. Different ones have been tuned and manufactured in a way that they vibrate at a frequency of, you have frequencies from about 1 up to 6,000, but we use specific ones on certain points of the body. I in particular use one which is the 1.36.1, and that is the frequency of Om. And yeah, so I just apply these over different parts of the body, and those are the frequencies. You can hear them. These are audible to the human ear.
And when somebody hears these, for myself, usually I get an instantly calming effect. How would you describe it to somebody who's like, I have never in my life heard of healing frequencies. I think they're completely far-fetched and out there. What would you tell them that they would essentially feel once they started to hear these?
Wow. I think it's different for everyone. I say this because, for example, if I don't know if you, Bobby, have ever had a gong bath, or have you ever seen a gong? To those who don't know, it's like a big, massive, giant plate that some sound practitioners, you know, play with. They gently tap on it, and it makes a big, loud, almost like thunder, but not as scary as thunder. But it feels like a more warm, a thundery sound. It makes you feel nice and warm and relaxed. But some people find it quite frightening. It just depends on where you are. Some people, I know I'm digressing a bit, but I'll get back to the point. Um, back to your question, what they would expect in general is to feel relaxed. Um, I think to a certain extent, it takes your mind away from the chatter, which is then how you're able to relax, because you're not so much focused on what's for dinner and, you know, what schedule you have for tomorrow. So they're very soothing sounds. You can also feel the vibration. It feels like a whirling, like a gentle, relaxing whirling sound that, you know, keeps pulsating, but it's soothing. It's not a nerve-wracking sound. But then again, different people feel sounds in different ways, because as we mentioned earlier on, we're such unique vibratory beings. So what I feel is relaxing and soothing, you, Bobby, may not feel the same effect, or we just might. But in general, it's very relaxing, it's calming, and it takes you to, you know, to a different place of
And
stillness.
does it matter on, you know, when we hear these sound frequencies and whatever it may be that you are playing, does it matter on, you know, those emotional feelings that we get based upon where we start at? So like say I had a really low vibrational energy, and when I heard something like at 417 or, you know, 258, would that affect me and my feelings differently than somebody who has a higher vibrational energy hearing it?
I think it would. Sorry, you asked me if you had a lower frequency and you were hearing it.
Correct.
Okay, absolutely. You would. It would put you in a state of the let's say the other the frequencies that you'd be hearing are frequencies that are trying to balance and cut out the negative frequency that's going on internally. And energy communicates so much faster than chemicals. So it would almost instantaneously zap out the lower frequencies and try to build you up on, you know, get you to a state of a higher frequency. If someone is already on a high frequency, I mean, it's just going to maintain that and balance it out. It's not going to take that higher than it, you know, to an explosive, you're not going to burst of frequencies. um,
Jumping off the walls with so much joy and love in my life.
right.
So this is so interesting and I love it so much. And we're diving now into the direction of healing. And we touched base on this for a couple of seconds before we went live on the importance of healing as oneself doing the healing compared to relying solely on a practitioner to do the healing.
Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up again, Bobby. Um, I know that last year and years before, I mean, we're always undergoing constant transitions in our lives, whether they're positive or, you know, negative. And what I find in my experience of being a practitioner, but also in my personal experiences, is that we're always searching for something, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're searching for meaning, we're searching for purpose, we're searching for healing. But I think where we miss it is when we look for healing outside of ourselves, and that in its own we disempower ourselves by placing the power to heal on something that is outside of ourselves, without realizing that we we are our very own healers. Everyone is a healer. So everyone that's listening right now, you are a healer. Bobby, you are a healer. I am a healer. There's no special person that is the chosen one, that is to say this is the healer that's here to fix us all. We've all been really blessed with, I mean, for example, I'll give you something so simple that we take for granted. You cut yourself when you're chopping onions in a kitchen, a small scar. You're going to heal. That scar, for all I know, might even disappear, and you might not even remember that you even had been cut in the first place. So I mean, that's on a physical level, but use that illustration on a more mental and energetic level. If your physical body can do that, even though you can't see it or it's not something tangible, but your emotions, your mind, your soul, your spirit can do the very same thing on such a higher level. So I think it's so important for us to tap into that, and take back our power. I'm not saying that practitioners and healing modalities have no place. No, they're merely there to help guide and facilitate you into your own self-healing. So thank you for bringing that up. I think it was so important for us to touch on that.
And it's such a key factor. I've gone through a wellness journey. It started like 10 years ago. And for a span of like 3 years, I was on this path of, I don't know what's wrong, normal medicine here. We're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. We'll just give you pills. We'll give you this. And nothing worked. And then so I was seeking more holistic approaches and learning so much. And that's why I dived into this with the neuroscience. And I was working with a neurosurgeon and doing things outside of the box. And then I got into like light therapy and learning all about sound and energy. And it's at these times like you learn how fast your cells can regenerate, how epigenetics work, how the genes that you've had at everybody compares, like, I have my genes from my parents. This is true. You get your DNA from your parents. However, they change over time. And that's how disease and, health happens, whichever way you look at it. Just because a parent had heart disease and their parents had heart disease doesn't mean that you're going to have it. And let's touch a little bit about on this aspect, because when you realize that you have the power to heal yourself and getting into this mindset and finding that place, anything is literally possible, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Bobby, and I'll go back to, when we spoke about availability, um, when you allow yourself to be open and to be receptive, um, choose to be available for your own healing, the universe can make you available. It can be a pretty ride or kicking and screaming down the path of transformation, but with that availability comes a sense of peace, new healings, um, stepping into the present of, the now. That's why it's called present, is the present. um, and into the mystery, and not just the history, the history of, the what you've just mentioned, the family history of, pain, or if it was limiting beliefs, or, health issues. But with that availability, you're constantly growing and evolving. And when something that you're listening to becomes greater, greater than the vibration of anything else, whatever you're hearing out in the world becomes dim. So that chatter of, no, I'm going to get this because so and so down the family tree had this, you all of that becomes very silent. And that's where authority comes from. And those are one of the 3 I's that I said to you when we spoke earlier. It was authenticity, availability, and authority. So see how we've come back to it. So yes.
And I want to dig deeper in this a little bit, because you mentioned limiting beliefs. And this is such not only a hot topic right now, but we've seen it, when the universe puts us into places that we absolutely have to get our lives right. And you mentioned it, you were either going into it in a joyful manner, or it can be like right in front of us, like making us stop, and or like, why? And those moments are so key. I really, like, my life, over the past year, like, I was going, 1,000 miles an hour, traveling all the time. And there was no time to really completely rest. And it was when the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, like, this is your sign. It is time to actually sit back and rest, and like find what it's like to live this slow life, and like find the joy in this moment and learn to accept it. And these points are so transformational when we allow this to happen and give that authority over to it. As you mentioned, um, now I lost my train of thought on it. But when we're going through these times, the limiting beliefs that we have from the past tends to come up in the present, and we predicate them also on the future. Of I find, whether it's for myself or I see it in others, of the potential that they thought that they could never achieve in the past, they try to limit themselves today with that. How does the limiting beliefs affect us on an energetic level, in terms of, maybe it's up leveling, maybe it's health, however you want to dive into it?
Okay. Um, Bobby, we've got to come to a point of responsibility. And when I say responsibility, I mean it's how we respond to certain things in life. So for example, a limiting belief, I'll take one of gratitude. So we we're not very we're not grateful on we're just not grateful for, we don't feel gratitude for anything in life. um, that in its own universe, or the God of your own understanding, is not going to give you anything else to be grateful for if you're going to be vibrating at a level of no gratitude. So when you start vibrating at a level of gratitude that leans into love, love is then possibility, infinite potential, it's healing, it's health, it's everything. If you start noticing synchronicities in life, and you know great things start to emerge through you as um, you still go through life's challenges. I mean, challenges are there for soul's development. They're still very much needed, but you're not coming from a reactive point of view. You are not reacting to circumstances. You're you've got strong emotional muscles, spiritual muscles, that you're able to, it's okay, you deal with it, take the lesson from it, what is trying to emerge from me right now, as opposed to reacting. And, so you're going to be responding to it in a way that is better for you vibrationally, and then it just has this domino effect. So I don't know if I answered your question or if I went off on a tangent.
Oh, I love it. We can go off on tangents on this. It's perfectly acceptable. How can one like sort of break down those limiting beliefs in their life if they're facing some, like, take for instance, I don't, I'm like new challenges, new jobs, things like that, saying I cannot, a limiting belief of success, I guess.
Mm. Well, that one, Bobby, we need to, now with this, I'll lead into practices. We absolutely have to have, and commit ourselves to, and be available for, a daily practice, whatever that is, whether it's prayer, affirmations, meditation. When you go into that point of stillness, and for everyone it's different, so I urge you to have your own inner experience of what that could be, because there are a million ways of doing it. But find a practice that allows you to get to that place where you're able to contemplate, because you can only uncover your and realize, oh wow, be more self-aware that, whoa, I have a limiting belief in this area, when you have a practice going on. So when when you have like a consistent practice, you're able to put yourself in a position that you're able to turn on this, sort of say, an antenna that can pick up on when you're going into, I'd say, the basement, where it's dark and you have all these limiting beliefs, and then pull yourself out into the balconies where you've got beautiful views, you've got the sun shining, and all is sweet. So okay, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so back to the limiting beliefs. So with the daily practice, you're able to be more self-aware and notice when you have a certain limiting belief lingering. So whether it's on, I can't make enough money, I'm not good enough, um, I'll never find, a lover, I'll be single for the rest of my life. These are common scenarios that we hear on a day-to-day basis. You're able to pull yourself from there and recognize that, oh wow, um, no, that's not right. Something's wrong with that. Because if that thought is making you not feel not so good, then it's limiting. It's not allowing you to operate from a state of expanded awareness, expanded consciousness. So um, again, I'll repeat, having a practice that allows you to recognize when you're going into that zone is so important. If you don't have a practice, I mean, you're not going to be able to have an opportunity to really be reflective of, have those one-on-one conversations with the man or the lady in the mirror, so yeah, that's how I know from my personal experience and from helping other people recognize their own and then start working on them, catching it, be aware of it, catch it, and say, okay, well, instead of me fighting and reacting to this limiting belief, okay, well, why do I have it? Where is it coming from? And what is trying to emerge for me right now? What seeks to emerge? And what am I being taught? Um, Out of this, and slowly you, things become more clear, and that chatter dies down.
And it's not an overnight transition. If somebody new is listening and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to meditate today for 5 minutes and my life's going to be absolutely amazing after this. Um, it's not an overnight transition. It's one, like we said at the beginning, like all of the drops add up. It all gets added up into that bucket. And like, if you're starting out, spend 5 minutes, you might go a little stir crazy of being quiet for 5 minutes. We're so attached to devices and phones and the chatter, the noise around, but builds up over time. Like, find that clarity. I know I posted a video on social media. If anybody's watching, like, do the inner works, like whether it's writing or prayer, or just being quiet. It makes such a difference. And I don't know if you mentioned this a little bit or not, but let's go into this direction of how the limiting beliefs can also affect your health. Because you started to go there of, if you don't start realizing it, and you gave the basement analogy, like, you could end up in that basement for a while at a lower vibrational state. And then the domino effect happens as well of decline in health and so forth. Correct?
Correct, absolutely. Well, stress is disharmony. And 90% of doctors' visits, I think I saw this on one of the Forbes, they did a medical article. And even if you Google it, I think we know most doctors' visits are based on stress-related issues. And where does stress come from? As I just mentioned now, disharmony. Where does disharmony come from? It's not living from that harmonic state. And that's when, we're constantly living in a bubble of, okay, no, nothing is right. I'll take, for example, when we grew up, I don't know if you had the same experience, but my mom would always say, you children, money does not grow on trees, so you grow up thinking, okay, yes, money doesn't grow on trees. Yes, money. And then you keep growing with that, even and without knowing that, okay, it's there. So money will you always think, okay, well, as long as I have a roof over my head, a job that pays the bills, a little bit extra at the end of the month to treat myself, it's okay, because money doesn't grow on trees, and we keep, so I just use that as an illustration. But when it's a bit more severe, that, okay, well, no one was happy, or, there was this health issue before, and um, you keep yourself vibrating at that, from that limiting perspective, because it's all about perception. And when it's constant, your body's in a state of fight and flight. You can't heal from that. You can't love from that. You can't receive, and you can't give from that point. So it just all round.
And I can attest to this. When you're in that fight or flight state, the cortisol levels are through the roof, inflammation's through the roof. Like, you hit the wall. People, doctors will even tell you, like, one told me that was it all clicked after I heard it. And they said, you are a walking time bomb. And you would never expect a doctor to tell you when you're 23 years old, like, you're a walking time bomb. But it's sometimes those simple words that, like, shift your reality, shift your perspective of, like, things have got to change, and I've got to change it now. And the way you said that, of like, our perception shapes our reality, the perspective that you're looking in terms of, whether it's abundance, limiting beliefs, etc., it's sort of like the fishbowl effect. If you're always looking at the out from the fish, looking into his realm, like fishing in that bowl, that's the only reality that you're going to see, and you're never going to see outside of it. And I think a lot of us need to look at the perspective, like, take ourselves from our current situation and go above, and sort of like, zoom out 1,000 times and be like, okay, let's draw the line, let's connect the dots as to what's sort of actually happening outside outside of us.
Absolutely. I'll give a little analogy on the flight and flight, just to, go back and just connect the dots when it comes to ill health for those that are listening. Now, when our ancestors lived in the, ancient era of the dinosaurs and, the ice age or the hunters, you know, whenever they were attacked, or, by a wild animal, or whenever if you see a snake close to you, your fight and flight is designed to put you in that mode so that your body is prepared to shut off all the systems and get you, into a safe space, or so that you're, prepared to take on that challenge, whatever it is, run away or fight it. But then with modern times, we're not able to switch that off. We go through stress, or maybe the angry dinosaur that's chasing us is probably our big boss at a law firm, or um, a husband, or a best friend, or whatever it is, anything stressful that, puts you in that position. And we don't switch that off. Normally your fight and flight is supposed to, stay for at least, after 25 minutes or at least 2 hours, switch it off, and then, okay, go back into the normal state of being, where digestion and everything is flowing. But we don't. We end up, 6 months on that fight and flight mode. We're always ready to attack, or ready to, we're always just afraid and ready to fight, ready to pounce, or ready to run away. And when we hold that on for 6 months, or 1 year, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years, then slowly, your body isn't able to regenerate. You aren't able to operate from, that expanded field of love. And then that's where healing takes place. So you aren't able to heal because you're still, operating from that fight and flight, which is supposed to have disappeared 10 years ago, but you're still experiencing that. And that's why you get these chronic diseases. Everything bad constantly happens and unfolds because we haven't come out of that. And Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, they all speak. If you have time, you go onto, YouTube. They speak about this in depth, and it's very informative and enlightening.
Definitely agree with you on both of those doctors. Like, go check them out. Bruce Lipton also explains it sort of at a lower level as well. I believe it was his documentary. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but isn't it the Heal documentary? Or there's one on healing. And that one, if you're just getting into this and like, I want to learn a little bit more what Bobbi and Michelle are saying, go watch that. Like, that is a great intro level and taking you down this rabbit hole of healing and how you can essentially heal yourself by getting to these higher states of vibrational energy. And it's so needed. This needs to be like preached from a rooftop, but I know all of the pharmaceutical companies here in the US will quiet us down, and you'll see more ads from them. But that's the reality. Like, once people know and take the time to do the inner work, take the time to get quiet, prioritize yourself, and learn how to adjust when these stressful situations happen, you'll have and be continuously living at an optimal state.
Absolutely. And your, you know as we discussed earlier, you are your own healer, and we're all healers. So there's so many things you can do on your own, and something so simple is words. So the language you use with yourself and with others. Mindfulness is not just about sitting and trying to be still and shutting down the mind. But it's about, the things you think, the things you say to yourself and to others, um, is so important. So the God of your own understanding, the spirit, the divine energies, whatever it is that gets you connected, because there is undeniably something that is greater than all of us, you know, and just speak to that, whatever that may be, you know. So if you're in a place where you need healing but you don't know, just ask. The universe will answer you. Just make yourself available and just ask, what is trying to emerge out of me? What is trying to unfold? What seeks to emerge? What do I have? What do I already have? What do I need to lose to become that, that positive, healthy, successful, abundant person that I see myself being? Yeah.
I love this. And I want to sort of continue on it when piggybacking off of like, you have to ask the universe, God, however you look at it. But once you ask, you also have to listen. And if you're just asking and you're not listening and being receptive to those answers that are being given, like it's going to be a never ending cycle. And it's going to be so hard to get out of that cycle of where you're currently at.
Right. Absolutely. And being receptive. Now, people might say, okay, well, I know when I started on the journey, I would say, but I can't hear anything. What am I supposed to hear? One may ask that, but I can't
Right.
hear anything.
And how would you respond to that if somebody's like, I don't know what I'm listening for? Like, there's no light bulbs flashing on the backgrounds. Like, what is it? What am I supposed to hear?
Sometimes it's not, we say hearing, uh, but sometimes it's being able to, it comes in different forms. Sometimes it's not that inner voice. Sometimes we think, okay, it's a voice that will say, Bobby, drop this project right now and do the other one. No, it sometimes doesn't come that way, but it may come in the form of, I know from personal experience, a sign, like, a job that you've been dreaming, that you thought, okay, this was my perfect job. I've been, had my eyes on this job for 6 months, and it's been such a hassle. It's been so difficult to get my foot out the door. But then the one that was, in the corner that you didn't pay so much attention to just comes so easily. That's speaking to you. And it may not have been what you wanted, but sometimes, we're always redirected. And so look for those parts of redirection. I'm not saying all of them, maybe, all different tests, but listen out. Sometimes it's not a little voice that you can hear. Sometimes it is, but the signs are everywhere. Just make yourself receptive and ask. If you can't hear, ask as well. I can't hear. What am I supposed to be hearing? And I promise you, it will be revealed. But that's also a daily practice for you to be able to hear and see and get the responses that you need from whoever, whatever. You need to be in practice for that too.
Oh, I could talk to you for hours, Michelle, on this. This is like going down my rabbit hole. Like, let's just have a course on this. Everybody needs to know more about it. Michelle, is there anything else that you would like to add before we start wrapping up today?
Um, uh, Again, I would go on with you. I think we need to have coffee and lunch with Bobbi, not just coffee.
Spend your morning with Bobbi and Michelle today. Morning or evening. We'll do
Right.
breakfast and dinner, since we're on different time zones. Um, yeah, so this is like the intro topic for so many. Like, go check out Bruce Lipton. Michelle has incredible work as well. Joe Dispenza. Like, get educated and like spend that time doing the inner work. Michelle, there's one question that I ask on each episode of Coffee with Bobbi, and that is, what's been one of the biggest blessings for you over the past year?
Wow, that's a big one. Um, Bobby, to be so honest, there's been a lot, but I think the biggest one for me, if I had to choose one, was being able to tap into what my beneficial presence is. Now, everyone has one. All of us are blessings. We're all beneficial presences. No one is a mistake. Everyone has a purpose. And I think our job here, part of it at least, is, finding what that is. So during the lockdown, as I'm sure with many people, it gave them time to contemplate. And for me, it did that and more. So it was the biggest blessing was realizing what my purpose is. It could be more. It's obviously going to unfold, and I'm open to that. But working and teaching, so coaching and teaching, so realizing that that is what I truly deeply want to do, that was a big opening for me, and I'm so blessed to have had that realization. So yeah.
That is wonderful. I cannot wait for to learn more about your teachings and offerings, because this is something I'm sharing to the world because we all need it. Michelle, where can we find more information out about you, website, social media?
On my name at Michelle Saudan on Instagram, and my website is www.yemayaexperiences.com. Yemaya, YEMAMA experiences.com.
Wonderful. I will make sure to put all of the ways to connect with Michelle and the show notes, the description, captions, wherever you are watching or listening to this from, you can connect with Michelle. Michelle, it has been such an incredible blessing to have coffee with you today, just opening up the eyes to people of the wonderful world of healing and wellness and diving in. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No, well, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're a wonderful host, and absolutely love your humor and your beautiful energy, your soul. And I wish you all the best. I know I'll see you more often, and I believe we'll work together as well in the future. So
Well,
thank you for your time.
I love this. I cannot wait for all of the things that we create, Michelle. Like my mind's already working. And for everybody who's listening or watching this episode today, I'm going to leave you with this. Spend at least 5 minutes today going inward, getting quiet, gaining clarity, gaining health, and gaining love. This has been a wrap on today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi and Michelle Saudan. Thank you so much for joining us today.